Barrister, let's move to the next topic. Abure, I don't know. Honestly, I was surprised at the appeal court judgment on Abure. What is your thought that Abure has been affirmed as the chairman of Labour Party, even though even me as a layman, I know that there is one thing he contravened, one part of the law he contravened. I don't know of other thing, but one thing, in my own opinion, layman's opinion on or understanding, is that INEC didn't supervise that election. They were not there. It was a public knowledge that INEC was not there. So I don't, that alone nullifies, invalidates that election. There are other things around the invalidation, but this one that I'm very sure 100% validate. So what is your thought on the appeal court judgment affirming Abure's chairmanship? And I don't get it. What do you think was the point? What was, I don't know if you have read the judgment, but what did they stand on to actually give this kind of judgment?
Again, with the caveat that the full judgment is not yet out publicly. Although we have been following the issues and we have talked about the problem on this platform before. The issue of INEC not attending a national convention, one can look at it in the way that the parties are obliged to give notice to INEC within a certain time to come and witness their convention. Now, one way of doing it, if you give the notice and INEC do not come, then it's no longer, you have fulfilled the provisions of the Electoral Act. But going back to the convention itself, there are parameters for having a national convention of a party, which are regulated by the party's constitution. In this case, I heard Peter Obi then saying that the March National Convention was not properly convened, in the sense that it is the national executive of the party that can approve a national convention. In this case, they say it was only the Abure National Working Committee that staged that convention. And the national executive, I told you, is an expanded body. The National Working Committee is only comprised of the active and necessary members that will run the party on a day-by-day basis. The national executive, which is the ultimate power, executive power of the party, is about 150 members. Most of them are in their houses. They are not participating in running the party on a day-to-day basis. But they ratify the decisions of the working committee. So if, for instance, the National Working Committee took a decision that they will stage a convention, national convention for the election of members, it must be ratified by the by the national executive. So I once heard Peter Obi saying that in this case, the March convention that returned Abure was not ratified by the national executive, of which he is a member. All the governors and elected officials of the party or who were elected on the party's platform are members. So I do not, the facts, one has to go back into the facts to see what happened, whether INEC was duly notified of the convention within the time. Even the National Convention has a time frame within which you have to do. The time within which you have to give INEC the notice to attend and participate. So having said that, I have not seen the full judgment. I do not know how these facts played out in the court vis-a-vis the judgment. But already the Nenadeu's faction have filed an appeal against the judgment. to the Court of Appeal. So we are still out there. The jury is still out. This is just the first court of instance. The jury is still out. It will go to the Court of Appeal and possibly end at the Supreme Court if there is no settlement between the parties. But I can say that in the political equation, in the way things are done, we have a whole range of issues. And this is one of the things we continue complaining about, the descent of the judiciary into anarchy and into disrepute. We have what we call inter and intra-party issues. Most intra-party issues are outside the purview of the court. The court cannot and should not resolve intra-party issues. It has no jurisdiction to do that. The courts have repeatedly ruled on that. In the past, it was that the court cannot decide on who a political party sponsors for election or who is the executive officer of the party.
But is that, hold on, let me even ask, it's because I have had that law for a very long time. To me, I don't get it. Is that law right? Because if you have, it's just like you have a family quarrel, you have a quarrel in the family, a dispute or whatever. You mean you are telling me that the court cannot wade into family issues? What if it amounts to someone taking the other person's life or whatever? So even so, the same thing. Party. Let's give this analogy now. Let's liken a political party as a family. So, of course, that's why they have constitution. Every political party has their own constitution, even though Nigeria's constitution supersedes all. But they have constitution. So, what is the essence of constitution if the court cannot wade into their internal wranglings or internal disputes? That's the essence of constitution. The constitution of the party is to guide everybody to put everybody in, to keep everyone in check. And if anyone goes out of line, you go to court. So I don't understand when people say that the court does not have the right to actually interfere or intervene in an intra-party squabble, disagreement. I don't get it. Is that law correct, barrister? I don't, because I've known this for a very long time and I've always been a critic of such crazy law.
Yes, I had challenged back in 1992 when I had the opportunity to go to the Court of Appeal on a gubernatorial petition. I had argued then before the Court of Appeal that, look, the party has a constitution. So what we are coming to the court is just to enforce the provisions of the constitution.
That is it.
So if at that time, that was the first time the provisions of the constitution provided for party primaries. The party did not state primaries, they just nominated the candidate for governorship election in Kaduna State. And the guy that lost, we went to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal went back to the decision of the Supreme Court, which had been the locus classicus, the law prevailing, that look, the court is not equipped to interfere. The issue of who a political party sponsors for election is a political question. And the court is not in a position to decide the political question. The jurisprudence of this was that you willingly come into an association. And if the association does things like that, leaves you behind, you only have the option to accept that decision or leave the association. That was the jurisprudence. I told them that, look, this is not correct. If I come into an association that has a constitution, I'm expecting that the constitutional provisions will be followed.
Yes.
So when we come to court and say, look, the constitution says A, B, C, D, but you did not follow, the court should listen to us.
Of course.
Yes, so I was overruled. The Court of Appeal overruled. That was in 1992. Based on what the Supreme Court has said before, that these are political questions and the courts are not equipped to decide political questions.
This is
That
it.
became the law and remained the law until the amendment of the Electoral Act, which now made it possible, but within a certain limit, what we now have as pre-election matters in Nigeria. The Electoral Act was amended to now say that these are the ways by which a candidate of a party will emerge, by consensus or by primary election. And if the candidate does not emerge from any of this, then it is null and void. That on that narrow amendment, we now have what we call pre-election matters, so that if I emerge successful at a party primary, the party is bound to send my name to INEC as its candidate. But it is within that narrow perspective that the court can interfere in party matters.
That is that is crazy to me. And a second, you just mentioned another thing again, which is, to me, it's a very, very serious issue, where you have where did you? I think you mentioned something now. I wanted to make a point out of it. Anyway, I hope I remember that. Now, the problem, honestly, our legal system, we have a problem. Honestly, we have a serious problem. Okay, I can remember what I wanted to say. Now, the issue of this consensus of a thing, that's another issue. Why is it a democracy? Why do we? You see, this problem, you have mentioned it rightly so, that Nigeria, we're not practicing democracy. Why do we have to actually incorporate such nonsense in our laws? Such nonsense that contravenes the spirit and life of democracy, which has to do with numbers. In democracy, this issue of consensus is not supposed to be seen or heard anywhere when it comes to democracy, because that defeats the purpose of democracy. For God's sake, if democracy is defined as the government of the people, by the people and for the people, what the hell is consensus talking about? Why do we incorporate consensus in our laws in the process of democracy? That's my point. Honestly, you see, the problem we have in Nigeria is especially with our laws. The people who actually were instrumental to actually establishing these laws or drafting it out, it was done based on selfishness. It wasn't a patriotic move at all. Everything, their decisions were based on their personal interests and the interests of those that will come in their shoes. That will come into their shoes should they not be around anymore. That is the interest of the establishment, just revolving around themselves, a sort of passing the whole thing around themselves, within themselves, a sort of. So that is just it. Otherwise, and which means that the establishment always want to eat their cake and have it. The moment something does not benefit them, they want to pass a law to destroy, to kill that stuff. And the one that a different thing benefits them, they also want to pass a law that will speak in their favor. This is not the way democracy works. And someone will tell me what dirty democracy are we talking about? Democracy is something that has to do with the people, by the people, and for the people. Not for a few less than 1% that are actually calling the shots at the top. I don't get it, honestly. This is the reason, what is one of the major reasons why I hate that word democracy, especially in Nigeria. It's working well in other climes, in other civilized climes or whatever, because they are culture, they have been built, they are designed for such system of government. Nigeria, we are not designed for this. Democracy is an imported stuff. It's alien to us. It's alien to our way of life. It's alien to our system. It's alien to everything about us. And that is why we just label it democracy, but our conduct, our actions, everything we do is undemocratic. It's the opposite of democracy. This is so sad, so unfortunate, honestly. So very unfortunate. All right.